Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is real, and it comes out in June, which is actually pretty nice. Gives me time to play Dragon's Dogma 2. Yeah, so that'll be nice. Maybe some other stuff. People are already asking me what build I'm going to take into the DLC the first time I play it. And, you know, I'm Saint Riot. I've got 40 builds or some nonsense, you know, just some absolute absurd number of builds. Look at this build right here. I made this build. This is a short sword build. I'm using the short sword. This is a sort of different take on my thrusting build that I have, my thrust damage build. I made one at level, around level 80, 70 or 80 or 90, something like that. And I thought, you know, most of my builds I have one at you know, higher level or meta level, and then I'll have one at 80. And I didn't have a copy of this build at 80. I really like this build. Sword, shield, it's Saint Riot stuff. I'm using that short sword for a reason. I'll get into that in a minute. But I got tons of builds, is the point. I got the Black Mage build, the Final Fantasy Black Mage build. And it's out there just throwing spells around. You know, lighting it up in here. Just going crazy. Absolutely absurd type of stuff. Watch this right here. You never seen anybody do this. You've never seen anybody do this. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Do you know who does that? Saint Riot. That's who you're watching right now. Me. My name. Who I am. Who I am. But, yeah, there can only be one answer. Let's be real. When that DLC comes out, I'm using the Moonlight Greatsword. That's the very first build I ever made. The first playthrough I did. If you haven't seen it, the playthrough is on YouTube. You can watch the whole playthrough. I'm not just tooting my own horn here, okay? This is not just me shilling my own wares. My first playthrough was phenomenal. Just in entertainment value. I told everybody I wasn't going to fast travel. So I said, alright, no fast travel. And then I accidentally get teleported to Caelid before I had access to Torrent or the ability to level up. And I couldn't get access to Torrent or the ability to level up without fast travel. So my dumbass is just walking around Caelid for 8 hours. Or however long it was. It's hilarious. This short sword build that I've made here, I'll explain that now. The short sword, if you press heavy attack, it does a poke. If you press heavy attack a second time, it does another poke. No other straight sword has that. That's a thing that has been in From Software games since Dark Souls 1. The Baldur side sword. Then Dark Souls 2, the Foot Soldier sword, and the Fume Knight sword. There were a lot of swords that had that moveset. The Sun Sword, even, in Dark Souls 2 had that. And then in Dark Souls 3, the Lothric Knight sword had that. And the short sword also had it in Dark Souls 3. But it doesn't exist in Elden Ring. There's no long sword with double poke heavy attacks. And so I beat the entire game using only the short sword, no shield. And that was me making a deal with Miyazaki on the psychic realm. Like, hey bud, look, if I do this, you have to give me my sword back in the DLC. And I suspect he'll you know, agree to our psychic arrangement that I made one-sidedly. Look at my man just slow down time Zowurdo with the damn lobster hits somehow. Absurd. But yeah, the very first playthrough I ever did was with the Dark Moon Greatsword. It was actually a build that's the entire purpose of the build was to find the Holy Moonlight, the Moonlight Greatsword, the Large Sword of Moonlight, whatever they were going to call it. The entire build, the entire playthrough was focused around that. Because it's always, you know, the Moonlight Sword has been around since before the Souls games, even, you know. It's just a From Software staple, dating back to Kingsfield and Armored Core days, you know. And so that was, you know, my first playthrough. I was like, I want to explore, I want to take my time, I want to find as many things as I can. So let's look for that sword, and that will be the premise of the build. And it made for some great content. Some fantastic content. If I do say so myself, and I do. Now, my second playthrough, see, I've already got this figured out. My first playthrough is going to be with Redeemed Jeff. That's the name of my Moonlight build here. And this build is just focused on killing people with the Moonlight heavy attacks. We can cast some spells. We've got the Carrion Knight Sword as well. This build is just full of dope, cool stuff. But it's an intelligence build with a lot of endurance. The second playthrough of the DLC that I will do with one of my frog characters. Probably my dark, evil frog. Punished Glenn. And the reason I'm doing that is because that character has a ton of arcane. And the arcane stat increases your item find. Your item discovery. So the higher arcane you have, the more likely an enemy will drop, you know, its stuff. And I'm just going to be farming like crazy on that build. And then I'll be able to look at everything and say, like, okay, I found this. This would go really good on my pokey short sword build. Or I found this thing, and it would go good on one of my strength builds. I found this thing, and it would go good on my frenzied build. You know, I can use the arcane build to basically find, you know, the most items that is possible for me to find. So that'll be my second playthrough. And people ask me, you know, they want to know, should they play the DLC in New Game or New Game Plus? And I think it depends. Look at this. Get it out of here. I think it depends on what sort of experience you're looking for. You're gonna get a challenge either way. You know, if you want to enjoy it, and you know, like have a challenge without, you know, making it super stressful. If you've got a character that's like around 130 or 150, and you're in base New Game, I think that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty good, you know, first DLC run. I'm basing that off of Miyazaki in one of those interviews. He said that the difficulty of the DLC was in line with the difficulty of the later half of the game. Now, if the only character you've got is like level 200 or 300 or above, I would definitely go to New Game Plus. But I'm going to do my first one at 130 in New Game, and then 160 in New Game Plus. Can't wait. And I'll have more for you guys soon. Till then, later, y'all.